Hey there, Speedy Sleuths! Welcome to the bustling streets of our very own Neon Noir, where mystery meets mayhem at the speed of sound.
I'm Jones Greyfox, multiversal detective extraordinary.
And I'm Sparrow the Tanuki, your plucky girl Friday.
And this is the Case Files of Sonic the Hedgehog, a brand new YouTube series where we dive into the real facts. Where are these fire ants coming from, and why are they wearing hats?
Today, we are talking about the Knuckles Archie Comics miniseries, issues 1 through 3, The Rites of Passage.
Yeah, we're going way into the Wayback Machine here, y'all. Like, if you go back to look at this Archie Comics, it was a whopping $1.50.
I noticed that as well. I was reading like the very small tiny script underneath like the title page, and I was like, $1.50. Wow.
Oh yeah, I am of an age where I remember where it was a brag that some comics were like holding the line at $3.99, and I'm just over here going, "That's nice."
Yeah, what
But yeah,
150. And I specifically remember ordering these like special order using one of the little forms that was in the other comics and
mm-hmm.
mailing it in.
Oh, oh yeah, no, this is one where you and I were on the same level, Sparrow, because this was like, for me, comics had been go to the grocery store, pick it up, but when Knuckles hit, Knuckles in my little kiddo butt was like, I could have Knuckles, and then I saw I could mail in a form. I could mail in a form. I think I literally even put like cash in an envelope with like literal change to send it, but don't quote me on that. That may just be like
Yeah.
the hallucinations kicking in.
Well, like back then, yeah, it was either cash or like a check from your parents' checkbook, right?
hmm Yeah, and mom was just like, "No, you gotta do this on your own." I'm like, "Okay," and I'll put like coins in there, make sure I had correct postage. And when it came in, I just felt like the coolest kid.
Yeah.
Like here was this thing. It is I actually can say that Sonic Archie comics are the reason that I started backing and boarding my comics. I was like, wow, these are really in better shape because I had like a whole run of another comic series, Impulse. I bent it to crap. Like they folded
Oh
up in my
no.
backpack. But honestly, it
Wow.
worked out. When I met one of the writers later on, they were just like, "Oh, this is a loved comic.
Oh.
You're okay with me signing?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's why I brought it here. Awesome." You took this in your backpack everywhere, didn't you? I'm like, yes, sir. 14-year-old me is losing her furry little mind.
That's really cute. I feel like if I was a comic book artist and someone like especially like a kid brought a
hmm
comic like that to me, I would feel like so happy. So I'm sure they felt they felt how much you loved that comic.
Oh yeah, but like because Knuckles started with the board and back, Knuckles was like pristine, and plus none of their writer artists were ever like cruising around this area, so haven't gotten to meet any of them in person in my nerdy explorations of the multiverse.
No, yeah, I have never met any of the Sonic artists in person at cons. That would be really cool. I wonder
Oh
if they
my
even
gosh,
come to cons nowadays. I have no idea. I'm
do
sure
they?
Uh, I'm sure there has been in years past.
hmm
Maybe like special like Sonic cons or something. I don't know. I've
Oh
mostly just
man.
been to anime cons, but
Well, I've run the gamut, and I've seen a whole bunch of them, and I mean to the point where there are artists I know I look out for in the artist alley.
mhm.
And wow, yeah, now that I think I've never seen Spaz's name on a board, never seen Art Mawhinney, who did this and also was a storyboard artist for the Sonic series, apparently.
Well,
So,
I was
hmm
looking. I was like, what has Patrick Spazanti been up to since?
yeah.
And you know, he's done a lot of work. He's actually done work for Avatar Studios, doing their comics for Avatar:
Oh,
The Last Airbender. He's done a bunch of like children's books for like Simon and Schuster. I'm like, wow, I'm glad he's still working.
good. Yeah, because you hate to see it when it's an artist you love, and he's in rare form. This is like a great opening cover that we have here
Yes.
with
This
Knuckles.
th-
Yeah, there it is.
this is one of my favorite like covers ever. I mean, I just love the colors. I love the framing. the Chaos Emerald there right in the center. Just looks so crisp and cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. And someone pointed this out. I was listening to a another YouTube documentary. Unfortunately, I didn't get all the way through it before this call, but they pointed out that all three covers, if you like stack them next to each other, they form like a triptych, and like the image is like seamless. And I never noticed that before. But I especially love, these covers.
Mm-hmm.
They're just gorgeous, and these comics really just like came at the right time, because this was right when I was like turning from like kid to teenager, and kind of wanting to read slightly more mature comics. I don't want to say like adult comics. That sounds different because considering I was like 13, but
Mm-hmm.
like these comics, which kind of start to lose a little bit of the kind of jokey joke edge, like some of the earlier Archie comics had, and start to get slightly more serious. As we'll see, they still retain plenty of the jokey jokiness in these early ones. But this was kind of like the beginning of where kind of the Knuckles stories started to get a little bit more like intense, I guess if I'll say.
Yeah, this is where you can see that you start to get the sense of what Ken Penders really liked doing with Knuckles the character and Knuckles the world. This is where things got serious. I mean, aside from the fact that, like, after 2 pages of, oh, I didn't just get spaz, I got a spaz internal with this really cool, like, he looks great. The boy looks good. He doesn't have the hat, but he looks good. I mean, look at those gloves. And, it's no bust on him. We go through this text page that looks like a scroll in front of an 80s fantasy movie. Of the countless natural wonders on the planet Mobius, none can compare to the awe and majesty of the fabled floating island. Yeah, like look at this thing. You expect this to definitely be in front of like the dark crystal, and you're sitting there like, I'm in another world here. And then we get to officially page one, and I don't want to bust on Art Winnie. I don't, because he actually got all of the characters in Sonic on model because he was a storyboard artist and he
Mm-hmm.
worked on the Sonic animation. So he kind of created the cohesiveness, but it's clear that as good of an artist as he is, and he had a lot to contend with, fantastical worlds, architecture, strange architecture, and all kinds of characters all over the place. They don't quite hit the dynamic qualities of even expression. Like one of
Mm.
the things I kind of noticed as I read Knuckles, we know that Knuckles and Sonic have that kind of permanent angry face. Well, not really angry face, but their design dips it in so they can kind of look cool and
Yeah,
snarky.
they've got kind of the cool attitude.
Yeah, they got the cool attitude.
Tude,
And
the
even though they
90s Tude.
yes, they have the 90s dude. And Knuckles more so, because he's the antisocial one. He's the one who stays. He's the dude who stays up on his island. Don't y'all come near. It's my island. Well, what if I want to visit? Well, then we will visit at you, but you won't come to my. It's that friend who's like, don't come to my house. Why? It's my place. So, Knuckles gave that energy. And so to, like, have him not have as much emotiveness, like, the closest he gets is, like, on page 6, where we see wee Knuckles with his father, and his forehead's just a little more relaxed, and I'm like, emotion! And the rest of the time, he just looks vaguely annoyed. This isn't helped by the fact that there's a lot of words. Like, the dialogue's kind of clunky, because it's an internal
Yeah,
monologue.
there's lots of talking out loud to no one.
Yeah. Like, what's this page? He's like, he's having a thought. No way. It's like, can I even do an Idris Elba voice? No, we will go with a different voice.
Yeah, let's
No
move
way I
on.
can cross the room without setting at least one of them off. So click from thinking to speaking. I'll just have to improvise.
Yeah, and
And
we get the quirky quips, like
hmm
they've thrown in everything but the kitchen sink, but the one thing I won't throw in is the towel.
like it's really odd. And it's
Yeah.
not odd because it's a part of me is like, is this the writers? Because Ken didn't just do this solo. There were two writers on
Yeah,
the
let's see.
miniseries.
The
It
writers
was,
were Ken Penders and Mike Kantorovich.
yeah,
Kantorovich.
I think it's Kantarovich. Yeah.
Kantorovich.
So yeah, like they're both doing this. They're both bouncing off of it, and yeah, it's just it's awkward.
Yeah, some
It
of the
doesn't
writing
quite
is
ring true.
definitely a little awkward, a little, yeah, wordy, and lots of monologuing or just talking to yourself. Um,
When for
mhm.
Knuckles, that doesn't really fit him as a character.
Yeah.
Like
I could see
it.
him being like introspective and like thinking, but like yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
talking out loud and all of like the kind of like silly quips, like it doesn't really feel on brand to me.
Yeah. And so this is like really early Knuckles too. Like I can't even be like, did Knuckles just think more, chill out more as the series progressed and Ken got like a better sense of him? And we're just looking at Knuckles as trying to carry his own little book here. Because yeah, it's just like, what's a nice kid like me doing in a hidden temple anyway? How to get myself into this same way I always do by leaping without. It doesn't just. It doesn't flow. Like it, I
Yeah.
keep the thing that kind of hurts me is I am getting spoiled by IDW, which feels more like
Mm.
manga, and that seems to suit the aesthetic of Sonic and his friends and his co-stars a whole lot better than the 90s comics thing. Like I recognize this. This is Superman, Spider-Man, 70s, 80s writing where Spider-Man would be like, "Here comes something bad. Oh, better use my Spidey speed to get out of the way." It's like, you don't have to say that, dude. We can see you swinging.
Yeah. It's it's not subtle.
Mm-mm. And it's made worse by the fact that they can do it because we get to this bit where Knuckles gets to put on the Indiana Jones hat, not literally. Don't get too excited. But
Not
it
yet.
goes quiet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet. But it goes quiet. And here it is. Like here, like look at it. This is quiet. This is tense. It works. And there's a little more expression on his face. And then we're back to chatty.
Yeah, like the one thing I do like about the way
Mm-hmm.
Moeni does some of the art, there's often like multiple sequences going at the same time. Like at the top of the page, you'll have Knuckles doing
Mm.
something, and then at the bottom of the page, you see like Interjack doing something. So you can see these like actions like forming parallel, which is kind of an interesting choice. But it also kind of like separates the action like kind of oddly. Like I feel like if this was like a cartoon or a TV show, there would be cuts like interspersed. But instead of doing that and like switching back and forth, they have these kind of layered um, compositions, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like when they go into the flashbacks, they do this
Yeah.
thing where it's like tilted. The comic is tilted in the background,
Yeah.
and like yeah, here on the right, it's like a comic within the comic, which is interesting, if not slightly awkward.
Yeah, and it's kind of not helping its case is it looks like Knuckles is walking through a comic of his own comic, and
Mm.
there's see Knuckles Chaotix #1 as chronicled in Sonic number 34. Like this is so
Yes.
remember in Sonic 36, like so this is a thing that was a little more common in older comics because
Yeah.
you'd have to call back because you never knew when it was somebody's first issue. But Sonic comics were probably the strongest offenders. Like I've gone back and read through stuff that I used to own, older comics that I had,
Yeah.
and none of them hit. And like the more I go through old Archie Comics, Sonic stuff, because they did so many spin-offs, so many side stories, and because these guys
Oh, is
would
that why?
plot out their doom, ugh, it's just it's a lot, and it's a lot to
Yeah.
ask of somebody.
I
It
definitely
it
noticed that there was a lot of those little like footnotes. Like I felt like it was almost every other page. It was like,
right?
see Sonic issue 31 or see, this special from October of last year or whatever. There was a lot
Yeah.
of them.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it was like
It's
I get it. But you don't need to have a
dude.
if anything maybe have a glossary or something, an index at the end. I don't know.
That may have
Oh,
helped, and it kind of shows the way things have changed. Because back in the day, it's just like, yeah, of course I know that. I bought that issue. This is how they did the sell. This is how they
yeah,
did the push. And so we're mixing this, and so Nux is giving us this background where he's talking about his dad. Which get ready, you're going to hear a lot about that when Ken Penter's write Knuckles
yes,
about how he can echidna the floating island got to the sky. How there was the brothers Edmund and Dimitri, but Dimitri
yes.
turned into evil energy. Like this is like if you were sitting there, it'd be like, okay, thank you for the backstory, and you'd be reeling. Like it
Yeah.
just dumped it right there, and then the shadow of Mount Fate, and Mount Fate we see, and it goes through this whole thing, and it's hard to kind of interpose it as Knuckles is just trying to make his way through it because we showed up in media res. Knuckles was on a mission to save his friend from Archimedes, who has been tormenting him.
Yeah, I was trying to remember, like, so what had happened? But yeah, apparently Archimedes had kidnapped Knuckles' friends, the Chaotix, and kind of lured Knuckles into this kind of like underground fortress with all this old echidna technology from their previous civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And so Knuckles has to fight his way through all these crazy booby traps that are both ridiculous and exotic.
Oh
And,
yeah, no, dude.
it's everything in the kitchen sink. And how did he get himself into this mess? We get a small flashback with some, like you were saying, the story, the comic within the comic, where we learn a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of backstory that Edmund and Dimitri, they were part of a generation of echidnas that wanted to return the floating island back to the main continent of
Mm-hmm.
Mobius, because originally, and correct me if I'm wrong, they had to move the island because of a comet.
So let me think here.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, comet coming.
Hmm.
We're gonna move. We're gonna make it go afloat. And I'm like, how does this impact the rest of the planet? I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have seen comets hit anything, but if it's gonna pop a city, it's gonna pop a lot.
Yeah.
So you might. But whatever. We're silly animal comics. I shouldn't harsh on it. They have take their magic green rock and it lets them go a fly.
And yeah, it's interesting how much like hand waving there is in this comic, but also over explaining of other things that don't need to be over explained.
What's the gag from Futurama? That just raises more questions. You're kind of left sitting there like they tried to explain it and they explain it too far, which is Sonic Comics kind of in a nutshell. They're like, we're in this weird world. We need to explain it a little bit. We need to explain more, guys. You're fine. Look, we have Blue Hedgehog. He goes fast. You have red air quotes. Echidna boy. He go punch. We're good. We're good.
Well, like, and the whole appeal of these Knuckles comics is it adds lore that was like never in the games. It really
Mm-hmm.
does expand things. It gives the floating island and the echidna like race, I guess, people like
It
all these crazy like motivations that just were complete fabrications, didn't come
yeah.
from anywhere in the canon up until this point. And that is one thing I will say. It did make things interesting before it got super overcomplicated. But at the
Yeah.
at the base, it's a story of there's generational trauma here. There's, you know, ancestral magics and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But in this story, we're introduced mostly just to two of Knuckles' ancestors, basically
Yeah.
Dimitri and Edmund. Edmund
Yep.
was the good one. He is the one who eventually founded the Brotherhood of the Guardians, which Knuckles is a part of. So that's like his great 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 a million times grandpa or something like that.
Yeah, who knows with this thing? Because he's like, I have absorbed the power. Like, I mean, look at this
Yeah.
dude. He's coming out. He's giving strong Skeletor energy or Mumra energy. He's lived for 1,000. No, wait. How could I? After 10,000 years, he's finally free. Enerjack. is just Rita Repulsa with dreadlocks.
See, I was like, what is this design? So Interjack is actually Dimitri Knuckles' like great grand uncle or something. He's the brother of Edmund, and he's the bad one.
The bad boy.
He decided he was going to absorb all the energy of the Chaos Emeralds instead of using it, because the whole reason they were absorbing the Chaos Emerald energy is so they could slowly lower the island back to the crater where it rose from, generations ago or whatever. But instead of, siphoning off that energy for some good, he decided to siphon it off into himself. And then he became this weird king-cut predator bird face guy with dreads called Interjack. And he was... That's a good way to do it. I don't know how to describe this character design. But
Lost. Evil Lost.
Yeah. But he was buried under a tower with the help of the fire ants. Mm-hmm. And then he is brought back to life because
reasons.
Like it's really unclear, right?
Yeah, it's like what happened.
What
happened?
The
link we're supposed to get. Okay, let's think this through.
What happened?
The link we're supposed to get is that Knuckles opened doors and there was a big rumble boom, and that was a connected rumble boom. That's it.
I guess. So it's like kind of Knuckles' fault.
Maybe
that he awoke this ancient evil.
Wait, even deeper. Not Knuckles' fault. It is, in fact, Archimedes' fault, because he's the one who set up all these traps that required Knuckles to run, that if he hadn't set the trap, and if he had just been like, hey, Knuckles, which gets us to the next thing, which would become a reoccurring theme for good old Ken, and the whole Knuckles thing, and how Knuckles, you get the start of Knuckles' journey of, I'm not going to trust people, because this has been my life. So Archimedes has been messing with Knuckles to train him. He's like, the entire time it's been this kind of taunting, like, ho, 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 not bad, kiddo. And so Knuckles is like, underskin. He's like, oh, you kidnapped my friends. You've done this. I'm going to kick you. He gets there, and here's his buds having some spare ribs. Spare ribs. And they're just, here, look at them. It's spare ribs, and they're chilling. And here's Archimedes. He's like, hey, everything's cool. I'm a bud. And you're like, what? Yeah, you're with Knuckles here. What? And this would just become one of many. And the problem is, because I know what is to come for poor Knuckles, where Ken Pender's this is his, favorite thing. He likes to do, I was secretly training you. It's like, dude, he did it multiple times.
Yeah. And,
adding to that is Archimedes is really mean to Knuckles. He spends most of this miniseries, Archimedes spends most of it dragging
insulting him,
Knuckles.
Yeah.
Yeah, what he does for most of the issue, he's just not bad for a kid. And it's like, dude, you're racist. Quit being this mean. I know you're a tiny guy, but come on.
Yeah, he is not very likable in this issue. And I was thinking, I was like, the only way I can make this character likable for me is if I imagine him having Rhys Darby's accent. And
yes, I can see it.
This is especially because recently I watched the new Jumanji movies with my son.
Yes.
And Rhys Darby is the guide in those movies.
Hello, Dr. Livingstone. No, he nailed it.
Dr. Bravestone.
Oh, Dr. Bravestone. That's right. How could I?
So if I imagine Archimedes talking in Rhys Darby's New Zealander accent, it helps a little bit.
As a matter of fact, I do. My people have pulled echidna fat out of the fire more times than I can count, as far back as the origin of this island. Yeah, no, as soon as you do it, it totally smooths him out. Because then he's just, regurgitating NPC with, the angry button turned on.
Exactly. So, otherwise this character is just mildly annoying. And like you said, Knuckles has trust issues, and I do not blame him
It's earned.
It really is. And so, he gets into this complex. He finds that, the chaotics are fine. It was just like a weird test. But then
Fine.
somehow Interjack has come back to life from being buried under a temple, or excuse me, a tower for, I don't know, like 100 years or something.
Yeah. Dun dun
And dun dun
dun.
dun, we get his weird outfit.
Tess. Yeah, and then we get him in his weird kilted. This doesn't help. This look. Like what? Where's your teeth? What is it? What is going on with you,
He
dude?
has like a weird beak. He
Yeah.
has like a beak.
Right. Like
It's very strange character design. Um, yeah, I don't get it.
it's not. It's offset even more because like he's got that problem where when the artist would do an armored dude, they do it like normal dude people proportions, and then you turn and look at Knuckles and Mighty and Vector and Espio and Charm. You look at them and they're like cartoony proportions, like
Yeah.
one of these things is not like the other. Because yeah, look
Mm-hmm.
at it. This dude's like he's got a little bit of bodybuilder. He's got a little of the Marvel Dorito going for him,
But yeah, like the long structured legs instead of like the
right?
noodle arms and legs
The,
that the other
yeah.
characters have. And like even Knuckles, like we were comparing, Mawini's illustrations versus like Spaz's like cover art. Like Mawini draws Knuckles with like a tiny little bean body, like very
Yeah.
round, very like kind of like soft.
Mm-hmm.
Um, versus like the Interjack, who he's like a superhero kind of proportions.
Yeah.
It's very
Interjacks over
interesting.
here like Knuckles. Do you even lift? How many Chaos Emeralds have you done? Reps do you done today, Knuckles? And they're just getting to the biggest reps off. They're gym rats. No one can stand them.
So Knuckles and the Chaotix basically get their asses beat.
Thoroughly. Like it's not even a contest. Just
Yeah,
like wave of my wand, I make my monster grow, knocks everybody out.
he splats everyone, and then all of a sudden, Archimedes and Knuckles are sent to a desert.
Yeah.
And that,
Because
yeah.
Enerjack went to the school of villainy where it's like, I'm a torture because that makes me feel good. So I'm gonna like watch him die slowly. This will totally work out. No way this can go wrong for me. Totally gonna work out. Right? Right? No, there's
Mm-hmm.
no one here to fist bump me in my brilliance.
And that's where the first issue of the miniseries ends,
Yeah.
with Knuckles and Archimedes stuck in a desert, like in the middle of nowhere. So for the first issue, at least there is kind of like an arc. There's some action, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. There's a lot of exposition, a lot of talking, but like I feel like there's a decent like balance of action and talking in this one. But
Mm-hmm.
in the next one, oh wait, first there's I love fantasy maps.
Ah.
So there's like a fun map of the floating island here, which I loved. And you can see all like the silly zones that are from like
Mm-hmm.
the games. So there's like Ice Cap Zone,
Yep.
Sky Sanctuary, Hidden
Yep.
Palace, Hydro City, Lava Zone. Only like maybe 20 miles from Ice Cap Zone, but
Because video games, right, y'all?
because video games. And they're in the middle of this desert here, Sandopolis Zone.
The Sandopolis Zone. Yeah, and honestly, this really speaks to kind of who the writers and artists were at the time, because like this is stuff like Sparrow pointed out, you're gonna get in fantasy books,
Yes.
and so these guys, even though they have this, younger property, Sonic the Hedgehog video game, very cool, even with Sega not giving them many details, they're like, I'm going full fantasy lore. I'm going
Yeah.
secret civilizations. I'm going secret uh mentor role. So like, and part of that is like, well, I gotta have my fantasy map. Look at this
Yes.
thing. Our heroes are here. It sucks to be them because you can see the whole of this.
Yeah, I enjoy a good fantasy map, so I did appreciate this. Um,
Yeah.
so
Like the fact that they did map
we start
curls at
off
the end.
our next issue with sandworms.
Yep, that's right. For all you Dune lovers out there, they brought the sandworms to Knuckles.
So there's menacing sandworms in the desert.
Hmm.
There's another great illustration by
Yeah.
Spaz with inks by Harvo. Um, Another
So
great
cool.
splash page we have here. Sonic the Hedgehog, with great reluctance, presents his friendly nemesis Knuckles and the echidna's reluctant traveling companion
Oh, I dig
Archimedes
that.
as they confront a menace from the floating island's past, the renegade scientist called Interjack.
It works, and here's where
Yes.
Spaz is able to. It's like Spaz cheats because he knows that because he's like, okay, Enerjack, more of a evil looming presence, and so it
Hmm.
works here because it's more
Yeah.
shadow and it's cast oddly, and all you have is the hand, and the
Hmm.
focus is entirely on our boy and his new buddy.
If you can call them buddies, and we get another
Eh.
kind of long-winded but
Mhm.
kind of great little scroll page. Knuckles' ancestral heritage was one of duty and honor, or so he'd been led to believe.
Oh, home, home.
And I kind of wish we had this page without the text on it because there's some really nice spaz art in the background of
Oh
some of the
yeah.
ancestral characters that I
Oh
don't think I've seen anywhere else, and you can't
no.
see it, and it also makes the text hard to read.
Yeah, it's one of those you didn't quite hit the note here and because I don't know about you, but when I got obsessed with that female scientist in the bottom left corner, like
Oh yeah.
what's her deal? Like here's a bunch of like, well, clearly that's like us dude scientist. There's another one. I think
Hmm.
that's Edmund. He looks grumpy. That's a shaman dude. Who's this lady? I need to know this. I am 12. I will base my entire personality around this lady.
Well, it's so funny because a lot of the ancestor, echidna
Hmm.
characters all look very similar to Knuckles, except for one has glasses, one has eyebrows, one has a tiny wisp of hair. This one wears a
Like
lab coat. you
yeah.
know?
Like you can really strongly see the family resemblance, and you're like, guys, could we have varied the echidna design just a little bit so it didn't look like
Yeah.
we were all like, welcome to We Don't Ask Questions Island.
They did what's the Billy Crystal movie where he copies himself, clones himself? What am I thinking?
Oh my gosh, multiplicity.
Multiplicity.
Hi, Steve.
Oh God.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
That is the secret of the Knuckles race. It all
but
started out because one guy kept cloning himself, and you make a copy of a copy. It's not as sharp as the original.
no. And speaking of not as sharp, some of the writing here is very awkward. There was this one panel where Archimedes is talking to the sandworm, who,
Hmm.
unlike the cover, in the center art or in the interior art, it's like a kind of green sea serpent look,
Yeah.
and he calls it Cecil, and I was like, Cecil?
Yeah, from Beanie and
Cecil from
Cecil,
Beanie and
the
Cecil.
cartoon.
And I was like, wow. You can tell
Yeah.
some old guys are working on this comic.
Yep.
And I was like, Beanie and Cecil, that's the throwback.
That is the
1960s Bob Clampett cartoon.
that is the deepest of cuts.
And then somehow they get away from the worms. Archimedes tricks it into running into a rock. And then it's implied that they eat worm meat?
Yeah,
Marshmallows?
I I took it as worm meat. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's like it goes squish boom, and then Archimedes does fire breath, and they
Yeah.
have food.
They're eating worm marshmallow meat. It's slightly disturbing, but also kind
Don't
of
think
funny.
about it. Don't think about it. They're eating worm meat. Whatever.
But
However, I will say they're both dummies.
yes, but unfortunately for the majority of this issue, I counted the amount of pages,
Uh
they're
huh.
just kind of walking around the desert while Archimedes lore dumps on Knuckles. He's ant-splaining him all of his ancestral history. and
I like that. And explaining.
and it's a little heavy-handed and kind of boring.
Yep. It's mostly Archimedes just going, so here's the real skinny, like, and you start to see where Ken and this and you can see where this would be great in a novel. Like if Knuckles was a fantasy novel, this would be fine. This would be a few paragraphs and you wouldn't lose your flow because it's, internal and reflection and you get a little more detail, or a character mentions it while they're walking, and since it's all written, it's all very prose and it rolls. But since it's interspersed, and again, they're doing that comic within a comic vibe, it loses a lot of the impact. So it feels like everything just went on pause. And what kind of adds to that is, even as a kid, I knew like wandering around in the desert during the day isn't a good idea, right? Like
Yeah.
there's that whole thing of like, yeah, aren't you supposed to like, shack up during the day when it's hot and then move around at night when it's not hot? But
Who knows?
this is largely for kids, and they're just like, whatever, you move in the day, it's hot, it's more dramatic, whatever, whatever. So this was just a little thing that, like, little Bones, little, when I was a wee foxy cub hiding in a cave with a switchblade and a sharpened stick, going, I'm going to survive the world. Totally normal upbringing. This is the thing I noticed, but it was also like, yeah, it's just long, and I'm like, isn't this for like, tweens, that 10 to 13-year-old? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll do it. I'll go for some info dump. I mean, that's what you do. You're 13. It's like, oh, this is cool. This is edgy. This isn't just like little kids comics. It's got stuff. But even then, I'd be like, what? Okay, there's who are the twin?
Well,
Like
it's
my
not even that he's learning backstory. I'm okay with him learning backstory. It's the fact that he's just being told it by someone
yeah,
else. He's not like kind of learning it on his own, like
he's
organically in any sort of way, or from the villain himself, or I don't know, from his dad, who should be the one teaching him all this stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, it feels kind of awkward. Um,
like we are Knuckles there, head in
yeah,
hand, staring at Archimedes, going, uh-huh,
yeah.
uh-huh.
But
Not a
here's
good
where we
look.
get like the huge crux of the lore about, how Dimitri became Interjack by siphoning off the chaos energy, and there's 12 chaos emeralds in this continuity. I think in the main Sonic continuity or lore, there's only 7. So I'm not sure why they just decided that there's 12 now. I don't remember when that became a
Yep.
thing.
Yep. 12 Chaos Emeralds. Did you think it was 7? Nope. Secret Chaos Emerald. Like, this is the thing. This is all Ken's thing. Like, you thought it was this, but it's really dun dun dun.
Yes.
Which, is fun once or twice, but when you keep doing it, and then it's like you have this character who's not attached to anything, and who's honestly been messing with Knuckles for a while, is like,
Yeah.
pull up a chair, a kid and a boy, the adult is talking. And I'm like, Reese Darby, you need to talk very, very well in your eloquent info dump speech to make
Yeah.
this work. Because it's like, then it's like, we fire ants have been doing this in the shadow of all echidna society. And I'm just over here going, cool.
What
This is
with?
a long way to drive just to give Knuckles a sidekick or a temperamental buddy dude.
Yeah, it's an odd choice also, a fire ant.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, I guess he already has a friend who's a bee, but
yeah,
yeah, interesting. So
it raises questions.
we get all this backstory, lots and lots of like we kind of see Interjack kind of interspersed, and he uses his magic wand, which is in the shape of a hawk, which again makes me think that this is supposed to be kind of like Egyptian
Mm-hmm.
referencing somehow. And he decides he's going to raise a city from the former site of Echidnaopolis. And he calls it like Necronomicus or something like that. Necronopolis?
Necropolis.
Necropolis.
Necropolis. Nice little play on words there. It's made even weirder just that, like, so this is where talking to yourself is fine, because you're the, like, air quotes, crazy bad guy who's, like, very full
Yeah.
on his ego.
He's
This guy,
monologuing.
he's monologuing, feels totally fine. Knuckles monologuing. Did you, like, have some bad, like, do you have a bad spare rib or chili dog or whatever the signature food is around here?
Yeah, it's very odd. And speaking of food, at one point Knuckles tries to eat Archimedes.
Why?
In like a very strange kind of like slapstick kind of scene.
No, 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 no.
Passing by
Don't like.
that.
We didn't get to the Lion King portion of the
Yeah,
comic.
so I was like, this must have happened around when the Lion King was popular. Because why? Why?
Yeah, there's.
So we have Locke, Knuckles' father, like projected onto the background of the desert, and Knuckles thinks that he's hallucinating his own father, I guess, but
Yep.
it's probably actually his dad. Like,
Because oof, yeah, like we're giving it away here, y'all,
yeah,
but this is like a 30-year-old comic. Like, surprise, Locke is alive. Nah.
yeah.
Because Ken
Knuckles,
Penders loves him, this trope.
yeah, Knuckles thinks that his father has been dead for the past, I don't know, at least like 5 to 10 years or so. Maybe not that long, because I think Knuckles is canonically supposed to be like 15 here.
16.
16. And it's like Locke basically made it look like he killed himself in front of Knuckles by walking into a wall of fire,
Mm-hmm.
and abandoning Knuckles when he was just like a kid. I mean, 15 is still a kid, but like a younger kid. To
12,
basically,
13.
yeah, to like live on his own as a guardian of the Chaos Emerald, the floating island. But he's not really dead. Locke is actually just like supervising him using like his crazy panic room with all these surveillance cameras. It's very
It's
strange. And
it's not a good look.
it's no wonder Knuckles is kind of surly and has trust issues.
Like, it's so not a good look. And the fact that it keeps happening. It
Yeah.
keeps Knuckles will be like, okay, here's this dude messing with me. I'm actually your dad, and I haven't been dead. Okay, glad you're not dead. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so rough for the boy. Like, you feel like at least the writers copped up to like, hey, we kind of keep doing this to Knuckles. Maybe we should give him, like you had a perfectly good guardian on your hands. No, look, you gave it anxiety and trauma.
Yeah, a lot.
Oh my gosh, it is amazing this boy talks to anyone.
Yeah. But I guess Locke does send them an oasis somehow. It is not explained how this is possible.
Nope.
Was it Locke that did this? Right?
Yep.
That's what's implied, that
Yep.
somehow he manifested an oasis for Knuckles and Archimedes to kind of like take refuge in
Mm-hmm.
temporarily.
Yeah, where they could recover, get some water, restate, balance out the temperature, eat. There was food here. There were peppers. There were coconuts. This was a respite. This was the you're down to one heart, and then you're like, oh, I found the meat in the treasure chest. Nom nom nom. Now you can deal with the bad guy because you ate the meat in the treasure chest. It's totally normal. It's video game logic, which,
I don't understand.
well, yeah, because it's like a kid. The thing the Echidna Society is supposed to be touted as like Atlantis, not Atlantis, and
Hmm.
they have technology that is on the level of it might as well be magic.
Yeah.
And then Inlock does stuff like this, so you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
well, yeah. When you're a kid, it rolls off your back a little more because you're just like,
Hmm.
whatever. But then you're an adult and you're like, wait, 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 wait,
Wait,
wait,
what?
wait, wait, wait,
Wait,
wait.
what? How did he do that? I mean, I guess it's implied that the Guardians do have some special powers,
Yeah.
but just to be able to randomly make a whole oasis, including edible food and drinkable water, out of nothing in the middle of a desert is like really random. It's very
It's so
strange.
weird.
And it's
It's
yeah,
so weird.
it's not really explained very well. Because even
It's
Knuckles is like, no, luck had nothing to do with it. Something or someone meant for us to reach it. It's very
it's
strange.
it's
And
like he said earlier. We end up with this just raises more questions. They were like,
yeah.
oh, we stuck them in the desert and they're there for too long. Locke shows up and saves it with the Oasis. How? Echidna science waves
Yeah.
hands.
Well,
Don't worry about it.
it's weird because they like remove so much agency from Knuckles' character in this whole comic because like he's just having things explained to him, he's not really finding them out
Hmm.
on his own. He's saved from basically each and every peril by someone else. And he does
Yeah.
do a little fighty punchy, but overall he doesn't feel like the hero of this story, which is very odd.
It is. It reminds me a little of this Princess Sally miniseries, which kind of,
Mm.
was one of the things that got us
We might have
being
to
like,
have
hey,
an issue about that or an episode about that at some point because that is way off the rails,
ooh,
even
yeah,
more
yeah,
so
yeah.
than this.
But like, you think this is off the rails? That's nothing. Sally, the rails weren't even attached. The rails were in space, 3 parsecs away. And this just seems to be the thing when a character would get a mini series, and Sonic would shoot mini series off left and right back in the day. It would just be all this lore dump, and you'd be like, "Here's my favorite character," and they're just kind of in the back seat going, "Cool, caught a milk dud with my mouth. That's pretty cool, right?" Like they're as much as along for the ride as you are, and it seems to be an excuse for the writers and artists to be like, "We're gonna make these cool characters that everyone's gonna love," and I'm like, I don't love Archimedes. He's got to be voiced by Reese Darby to make him lovable, and that's a lift. I can't call it like Restart. I know that, Our Flag Means Death didn't get its renewal and we're all bummed about it, but I don't think he's going to be like, oh, Archimedes, yeah, I'm going to take that voice role out.
I mean, he used to do quite a bit of voice acting. He still does some voice acting. He was
Oh
in
my gosh.
the newer Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Was it
Oh my
Rise?
gosh.
Rise of the
Yeah.
TMNT? I think he was like
Rise of
one of
TMNT?
the villains in that, and he was in Voltron. The newer comic cartoon Voltron. He was one of the side characters in that. He like often plays side characters, so who knows?
Oh,
But maybe
okay, then maybe this is perfect for him.
if we ever get a animated adaptation of the Knuckles miniseries from 30 years
Oh,
ago.
no, boy. Yeah.
Well, who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe he will be a side character in the Paramount Knuckles live action series. I would love that.
Entirely possible. I'm hyped for that.
But meanwhile, as Knuckles and Archimedes are
Hmm.
struggling through the desert, uh, Interjack is raising up, this tower and building his evil city. And he like builds like a whole city in like less than a day using like his magic powers. But
Yeah.
it makes sense that he has magic powers because, like he said, he has absorbed 11 Chaos Emeralds, unlike Locke, who is good at science. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's supposed to be the dichotomy.
I guess.
Edmund was the good brother. He followed the path of reason, logic,
Yeah.
science. Dimitri was the evil brother who took a quick way to power with magic and drinking 11 Chaos Emeralds. That's got to be like chugging 11 Mountain Dews in a row. That's the best way I can think that works.
It can't be good for his sperm count.
Nope, definitely not. Oh god, and then there's random robots for
Oh,
no
yeah, there's just
reason.
like robots. I don't. It was very like Robotropolis, and I was like,
Yeah,
why are there SWAT bots here?
yeah.
This is a completely separate. It's very, very much like that. So Knuckles and Archimedes kind of like break in. There's robots for some reason. There's like an evil like tower that's very Skeletor.
Thank
Um,
you. Oh my god. I was like, okay, Knuckles, you may need to turn around. This looks like where He-Man fights Skeletor. You may have pulled up into the wrong evil citadel.
and even like the robots are like chanting yo yo
Oh my
yo. I
gosh.
was like, what? Why? Okay,
It
sure.
was uh
So of course they have to fight a bunch of robots.
yep.
Knuckles just gets to do some fighty punchy.
Here's the Spidey
Um,
Punchy.
but then as soon as he like gets inside of the tower, he is attacked out of nowhere. But first he is tripped. He is
Oh,
stung on the forehead. He is blasted with music, and then straight up punched in the jaw.
like hard punched. Like it's not just a pop, it is a boom.
Well, this
Like you
is
get
so funny
it
and
is
like
my
kind of slapstick after like just a couple
Mhm.
panels earlier he was like beating up a bunch of robots. And then it's revealed, oh, it's the Chaotix. They've been like hypnotized by
Wait,
Interjack. And there's
Yes.
like this really kind of weird, creepy picture of them, like with their weird, creepy eyes. This drawing is strange,
This is uncertain. This is. Ooh, I'm uncomfortable.
but I do like how the Chaotix is like in the logo.
Yep. They. If nothing else, the Sonic Archie comics were on point with their branding. At every point, they would put in not just that it's the Chaotix. It is the Chaotix. Like you could hear the echo
the Chaotix
effect.
TM, or there's a TM
exactly.
there.
Just
and that is
there is a TM there.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
It's very small, but there is a TM.
There's a okay, I'm looking at it on my. Yep, there it is. TM. Okay, Archie branding on point, locked.
But so this issue, I feel like the first one was definitely a little bit stronger. This one gets bogged down so much in like the lore, and Knuckles just like not doing anything for literally over half of the issue. They're just like in the desert getting backstory.
Yeah.
Like I think it's at least like 75% of the pages. And then like the last maybe 10 to 15 pages, they actually reach the Citadel, do a little fighting, and then it's the end. I think it's probably the weakest issue, the middle one. I guess that's not uncommon. But still, yeah. We do get another map.
Yes, further mappage. So this time we zoom in.
Isn't quite as interesting, but this is the map of Necronopolis. Necronopolis.
Yeah, it's supposed to be of the dead, which adds more to your Egyptian idea. But
yeah. So we kind of see the layout of the area here, and most disturbing is at the bottom. It says slave barracks, and I was like, what?
What slaves? Where's the Enerjack? You just had robots.
You have robots. Is that where your robots live? Why are they called slaves? It's very strange and kind of upsetting.
It's kind of like, he's evil, remember? Yeah, no, we know he's the
guess
bad guy.
So. And also here's the pit. The pit.
Just the pit.
The pit, the slave barracks, an observatory. The Citadel here in the middle is where most of the activity takes place, I think. It's hard to tell. But that was the end of issue 2. So we're going into issue 3, the final issue of this miniseries.
Right in. Now, this is a better effect for hypnotized, brainwashed eyes. I mean, you can clearly tell.
Yeah, you can see they're kind of this fuzzy blue glowiness. And I like this scene of them like fighting in the rain. And again, the Egyptian kind of motif. We see like literal hieroglyphics of like ancient echidnas here.
Right.
In the foreground. I didn't notice that until just now.
But, no, I was going to call it out if you weren't, because it's just, Spaz would just cram details in. In fact, the nice thing with him cramming all those details in is we get to do this throwback, check out what's riding on Vector's hip. That is a no-skip Discman.
Is it a Discman or like a Walkman?
I mean, look at it. It's circular, it's big and round, and it's got the cable drifting behind. That's got to be a no-skip Discman.
Maybe. It almost looks like it would have a tape deck in it versus a CD player, but you might be right.
Yeah, because Vector was supposed to be the hip music guy, so of course he has the Discman versus an old school tape deck. So I'm bringing it up.
Are the Chaotix in the newer IDW comics? Do they make an appearance?
They are. They're a not as distinguished detective agency as ours.
Oh, that's right. Of course. I forgot. But I was gonna make a joke. Does Vector wear AirPods?
I can't remember now. I'd have to go back and look. I think he does. Although I think now it's because it's swung around. He's just got the noise canceling headphones on.
Yeah, he's just wearing his like high-end Bose headphones.
Exactly. It's all about everyone's like, Vector. He's always into his music. No, it's just ASMR the whole time.
His Raycons or whatever.
Exactly.
But I do love the design of the Chaotix. I was excited to, see them in this issue. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't really have separate personalities much
Nope.
in these issues at all. They're just kind of there. And,
Yep.
yeah, they don't really even have, like, individual voices. I mean, I feel like at one point they gave, like, Vector, like, an unfortunate kind of, like, jive talking kind of accent, which
Oh my
wasn't
gosh.
appropriate.
Nope.
But, like, at least it was unique and set his character apart in some way, I guess. I don't know. I don't think, not saying that it was good, but I appreciated the trying to diversify the character. No, I don't want to
Just a
even say
little.
that.
Wrong choice. Not break
No,
them.
no.
They're unique, sort of. Not
Maybe
really.
make the character sound different.
Yeah.
But
They sound different.
anyway, so we get another splash page of text, scroll page. I'm not sure what to call these. Deep within the heart of the Ebon Citadel, the fate of everything as we know it will be decided. A battle to be fought, with neither side offering or giving any quarter. Here, the past collides with the present, as descendant squares off against ancestor. It's like so dramatic, but I
It
kind of
is
love it.
like the Ebon Citadel. That is some
Yes.
like, man, Ken, I'm sorry you never got to write the fantasy novel you wanted to.
Oh, it's so schmaltzy, but
It
I
is.
do kind of love it a little bit. Um, so we're in here. Knuckles is confronting the Chaotix who have been hypnotized. We get this kind of
Mm-hmm.
awkward panel.
It's a very awkward panel.
We can do this easy, or you can do it rough. Either way, it's like past that one.
And then
uh,
we get to our hip reference, kids.
for some reason, Vector quotes The Mask, Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
smoking while spraying everyone with a fire hose that's in the. I'm not sure why Interjack decided to manifest a fire hose. I guess the fire marshal got onto him.
There you go. It's like not even the evil of Enerjack can be like, look, there are codes. I do, as an evil overlord, have to make sure that I am within OSHA compliance. Those guys are scary.
I mean, I don't blame him, but it was a very weird detail. Why of all
Yeah.
things, a fire hose? But then Knuckles slowly, pal by pal, takes them down with the help of Archimedes, who can breathe fire. I don't know if we mentioned that before, but he can breathe fire and do magic,
Yeah.
like just straight up magic.
Yep.
It's kind of
Not
implied
magic.
that it's like sleight of hand and like smoke and mirrors, but also how?
Yeah, they don't go into it. They're just like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Knuckles
Don't worry
really, the
about it.
Knuckles writers are very much into, you're going to pay attention to this, but what I have questions about that. Don't worry about it. This is the neat thing. Are you sure? I'm kind of pointing at something
Yeah.
equally neat.
What?
What is up with this guy?
What is up with this guy? It doesn't really make his powers don't make sense, but yet he's the source of all truth in the story.
Apparently.
But
And then Knuckles and Archimedes just go out like lights.
yeah, Interjack uses like his powers somehow to just like knock them out. I think it's implied later on that he like somehow removes the air
Yeah,
from the
like
space around them, but only them because the Chaotix are fine.
yeah. No, that's not implied. He straight up says, I stole the oxygen from you. You think wait, dude, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Because they used Archimedes. Magic. Like, it's every time
Yeah,
he
it's
did it,
very
it's like,
strange.
and again with the comic within a comic, but this
Yes.
time from Enerjack slash he's monologuing. This gets a pass because it's the villain monologue.
Yeah, we kind of revisit a little bit of the story, where he goes into more detail about him and his brother, the research they were doing to try to like slowly lower the island to rejoin it with the main continent of Mobius by ciphering off the energy from the chaos in our molds. But then he decided, no, I'm just going to take all the energy for myself. I guess because the Echidna Council, which have white puffy wigs,
For some reason.
For some
Apparently
reason,
they're British lords.
I guess. And they said no to their plan, so he just decided to go rogue and absorb all the power for himself.
With this very Jack Kirby looking device. Let's be real. That looks like something from a Marvel comic.
Yeah, very, like, I don't even know. You described it better. Jack Kirby looking weird.
Yeah. This looks like a
old
Jack
school
Kirby kit
comics.
bash.
Yeah. So he has Knuckles and Archimedes kind of like captured in like this energy field. Oh, and here, this is a strange detail. Knuckles asks him, like, well, he kind of like implies something about the mirage that was a oasis to Interjack, but Interjack doesn't really react about it, and he's like, interesting. He doesn't know about the oasis we found out there. And I'm like, why would
Why
he?
is that? Why
Why
yeah,
would he
like,
know anything about that? Were you thinking that he was the one who gave you the oasis, and why? I mean, I guess that makes more sense than just randomly his dead father being able to manifest it for them.
yeah, and this
I
is
guess.
still early enough that Knuckles wouldn't even have thought of his dead dad pulling this stuff. So for him, he was just like, "Oh, sweet, an oasis. Wait, it's gone now." Archimedes like, "Man, I don't know. You're the echidna here. I'm just here to
Yeah.
be a fire ant." And
I mean, I guess this panel is just here to kind of remind us as readers that, oh yeah, that was a little bit weird, huh? Who did that? How did that happen?
maybe we shouldn't point out a gaping strange item.
Yeah, it's very strange. But then, while, Interjack is kind of monologuing, Archimedes, like, sends out a signal to the ant hive mind.
Yep.
He shoots little beams out of his antenna somehow, or beep 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 beep. He sends out this SOS to his little, like, naked, except for shoes, Mickey Mouse little ant friends.
We'll all look up.
Ooh.
Is that Archie? No, that's not Archie. We couldn't find him. I don't know him. Oh wait, I do own 5.
So, kind of like while the rest of this action is going on, there's like scenes interspersed at the bottom panel where you see like ants doing things. But in the meanwhile, like you said, Interjack is monologuing, and suddenly Archimedes uses magic to just like straight up vanish. Oh yeah, and here's the panel where he says, "Just as I stemmed the flow of air from allowing you to breathe." And then there's like an editor's note. So that's what happened on page 5. Still trying to figure it out.
Guys, trust your readers to page 5.
That's very strange. So many little editor's notes. But anyway, they magically get away somehow. Again, Knuckles is kind of saved by someone else, not his own power.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the Chaotix, who are still hypnotized, are just like gambling in the back room. They're playing poker in the back. Interjack commands them to come back out, try to fight, but Knuckles and Archie are invisible for some reason. They come out, and they're sneaking around in the air ducts now.
Gotta get in our Die Hard moment.
Yeah, they're getting in their Die Hard moment. They kind of like explode out from the air ducts and smash into Interjack. But I like this, like, surprise! Yeah, this is a plan, all right. But then they're like bantering, like, and then Archimedes is like, cuff him? It's like, what? Is Knuckles a cop now? Like, does he have handcuffs? What are you talking about? Or does he mean, like, punch him? I don't know.
No, he said cuff him. He said cuff him. No, I'm with you, because I was like, cuff? What? Does it look like Knuckles carries cuffs, Archimedes? Does he look like that kind of guy? Do you want that kind of guy? Because Knuckles ain't that guy.
Yeah,
Knuckles
it's
the guy in the
very strange. But yeah, like, no, Knuckles is not a cop, at least not the kind that has handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And Interjack immediately throws him off And again, we see a
Because
weird image, like this, like expression, like he's got a beak. Why does he have a beak?
it's so odd. This mask, this whole vibe, like
Yeah.
this is something that probably looks really killer from one angle, and every other angle doesn't follow up. Like that's what this design hits for me, where they're
Yeah.
like, cool, there's the good design. Now turn it, and they're like, ooh,
Yeah.
don't do
Or
that.
like open his mouth. It just looks very odd. He has
It's wrong.
it looks kind of like vaguely like Big Bird right here.
Yeah. That's the next secret twist. Enerjack is really Big Bird. Dun dun dun.
It's so strange.
It is.
But, here we get like a little bit of a confrontation between Knuckles, where he gets to actually kind of talk one-on-one with Interjack, and he gives his little hero speech. My name is Knuckles, Interjack, or should I say, Great Uncle Dimitri, the only echidna who ever put himself over his own kind. I've known all about you for a long time. I am what I am because of you. So at least we get a little bit of kind of Knuckles' perspective here, I guess.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit ham-fisted. It sounds like he's internalizing at least some of the stuff that's going on with it. We get a little bit of his motivation, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I might be reaching.
You're honey. Leave the reaching to the tall fox.
But so we do get a bit of a fight here. Finally, this is kind of like what acts as like the climactic battle between Knuckles and Interjack.
And it's not much of a climactic battle.
It really isn't. He punches him a couple times. He does like this roundhouse kick. He does this weird kind of quip where he talks about that Knuckles says he has pride and honor, which are qualities that Interjack never had, which is kind of it's like, I'm pretty sure this guy, if anything, was extremely prideful.
Yeah.
Maybe not honorable, but pride was kind of a weird choice there. Because, if anything, I think it was kind of like his own hubris that caused this whole problem. But anyway, Knuckles does this kind of sweet roundhouse kick backwards away, and then suddenly Interjack's tower is blasted into outer space by rockets.
Y'all remember how we said, hey, we have that traveling panel at the bottom where the ants were doing stuff? Well, while the ants were doing stuff, you're also watching, like, why are there rockets coming in? And they attach to the tower. Like, this whole time, they're fighting their, air quotes, climactic fight, trading words. Feelings. They're trading feelings.
I don't know. So the ants are, like, coming up the tower. Excuse me. And we see, like, rockets kind of, like, coming from nowhere and attaching to the tower. It's kind of unclear what the ants are doing, where these kind of rockets are coming from. But this is all happening while Knuckles, completely independent of anything that he's doing. He's, like, punching and kicking, having this kind of monologue. Or not monologue, because there's multiple people, having this kind of, like, back and forth with Interjack here. But it turns out that even the ants don't know what happened.
The ants are like, hey, dude, we just, like, ate the floor out from under y'all, like you, like, asked us to, because we're ants. That's, we can do that. Just check with Ant-Man. He has us do it all the time. It's like nothing. And instead, it's like, so just rockets came out of nowhere, and you're just kind of going, huh? And as Knuckles and Great Uncle Dimitri have their not so epic rap.
Yeah, this is very anticlimactic kind of climax. So it's like, huh? So the Chaotics, they're not hypnotized anymore, and they're like, you did it again, Knuckles. How'd you do it this time? And Knuckles is like, I didn't do anything.
I didn't do squat. Are you kidding me? I just kind of sat back. Archimedes did most of the work. I kind of walked in, I punched my great uncle. That felt pretty good. But that's all I did. I punched a dude and it didn't even.
It's just this meme.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just this meme.
Exactly.
You didn't do anything. You punched a couple of guys, I guess.
Yeah. Knuckles showed up to do the punch.
And you learned that it was a combination of things that added up when I put them together. Did you put them together?
Did you?
My dad's story.
Did you really?
Archimedes plus Interjax. You didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything.
You didn't put together anything.
I found 2 points. You ain't found shit.
You ain't found shit. But the Chaotics don't care.
Let's party.
The good guys won anyway. Let's party.
Yay, it's a party.
Yay. It's so strange.
It is ultimate 80s movie energy. Just punch the air. Yeah.
Yeah. And it freeze frames on them all kind of high-fiving in the air. But no, we cut away and we get this next page with this older echidna, and I don't even know if we know this character's name yet. I think maybe we have seen him in other issues where we kind of know that he's Knuckles' dad. I don't remember.
No.
It's been a while, but they don't explain him at all in this comic, except I guess we see him in the sky in the Mufasa scenes, and Knuckles calls him dad, so we know that this is Knuckles' dad.
Yeah, and to reinforce it, we have seen him in earlier little one-off comics. You have seen, but he's just been a robed figure looking out for Knuckles and talking with Archimedes, like mentioning like he has progressed well. Like they were in shadow, they were both in shadow. So this is him revealed, and then you're like, oh, it's the image that Knuckles saw in the desert. Oh, it's this, and he's like, a father cares for his son, but like knowing what we know, it's such a bad look. It's like.
Yeah, isn't it the father's duty to look after his son? It is. It is.
It
but
is.
Is what you're doing looking after your son?
Yeah, like we've been.
It isn't.
Sparrow
Spoiler.
Mentioned generational trauma. Knuckles is nothing but the focal point of all of the Echidna Society's generational trauma.
Yeah. And, like, Locke's design, it's basically just like Knuckles with a white beard. And,
Knuckles with a goatee.
A Jedi robe, I guess, kind of.
Yep, robes. Remember, robes are mysterious.
Robes are mysterious. We get a lot of robes later on. But, everything is good. Reason. Everything's good. Knuckles didn't do anything but save the day somehow, anyway. And him and Archimedes decide that now they're friends, even though Archimedes has been kind of a jackass this entire time.
Yep.
I guess he did save Knuckles multiple times in this.
Undecided.
Using his magic. But, yeah, so the last panel, though, is we end on, is Interjack cackling madly as he is blasted into outer space. The end.
Yep.
For now.
Air letting out of tire sound.
Exactly. It is kind of like a weird wet fart of an end.
Well said.
It's so like anticlimactic. Knuckles doesn't do anything. Like the end fight is like cut short because he's blasted into outer space by forces by Locke, who
he says, I attached the rockets to the Citadel.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why didn't you just attach the rockets to the Citadel to begin? Why did
you wait?
This just raises more questions. All of Echidnopolis and the Guardian watching from the shadows. That like every bit of this is like, as soon as you think of it for 2 seconds, it doesn't work. But when you're a teenager, you're just like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. But we get a cool map at the end, I guess.
Yeah,
This is the weakest of all the maps, because it's just the tower, and there's also like a weird typo because here you see we have Recreation Lounge, great for card-playing lackeys. But then also down here, Recreation Lounge, great for card-playing lackeys.
Whoops.
So, someone copied and pasted and forgot to update something here. But this is
Yeah.
Interjack's weird Skeletor tower, which is still amusing, but very strange.
It really is. And I guess that's just Art Mawhinney's chops showing. He was a storyboarder. He's drawn so many backgrounds, and they were just like, Enerjack. He's kind of like an evil magical bad guy, so he's like cool He-Man vibes. I'm not gonna blame
I
him.
guess.
This is like these are the vibes.
Yeah, it was just a strange note to end on. So final thoughts. What were your overall impressions of these 3 issues? This kind of like intro miniseries to kind of like the whole Knuckles canon lore.
The thing that kind of really tripped me going back and reading these, and I had to read these twice because I initially read them a little while ago to get ready for this. And then as we got closer, literally today, I knew I need to reread this closer to when we sit down and review this case file. And the thing that hit me is how it is a microcosm of what the Knuckles series would become. It is a nesting doll, Russian nesting doll of moo mystery, ooh other mystery, ooh mystery, and Knuckles just left on the back foot of okay. Like it almost seems like the writers really resent having to have these active teenagers here to save the day. And what's much more interesting is Rhys Darby's Archimedes and Locke, who I'm going to say is voiced by by Ewan McGregor doing his Ben Kenobi voice. So we'll throw that one in there. But this is kind of symptomatic of when Ken Penders is left to run wild. He takes the characters that you're here for, Chaotix, Knuckles, and rams in the characters he's decided are much more interesting and really should take the spotlight, like Archimedes, master of sleight of hand and fire-breathing fire ant. And Enerjack, weirdly buff dude compared to everybody else and looks weirdly off model. And Locke, Knuckles' secret, no, really, I totally committed suicide and I'm not helping from beyond the shadows. It's the whole microcosm of what Knuckles would deal with. And the thing is, since thankfully the writers weren't ignorant to the stuff they were doing, Ken and the other creators were like, oh, we keep traumatizing this boy. We should address it. So it does show up. It's not just, it's not like other shows where it's just like this thing keeps happening and the character brains reset practically. No, it progresses, it stacks, but it's a microcosm of what's to come, and it's really frustrating because it's taking swings. It's not daring to be like, hey, these are kids, they're not going to get this. But at the same time, it's like it's also not for adults because it's got too much kids stuff. It's somewhere in between. So it was no surprise that so many of us who were between those years, not quite edgy enough for like dark comics and not like being like, I don't want to read Superman or Goofy Batman anymore. I want a serious comic. And we fall into this, which gives us a little bit of that energy, but also a little bit of that edge. And so I'm not surprised that like as soon as you get past that age range and you look at it, you're like, ooh, this doesn't hold up. Or you like compare it to IDW, which is just said like, we're gonna go all ages vibe, and it works so much better to the tone of what's going there versus this, which is like, I want to try and cram my fantasy novel into this shape, and it's like they're trying to pound it really hard in. So we're getting the preview of what is to come.
Yeah.
Because Knuckles ran for 32 issues. It was kind of a success. It didn't go turbo long, but it ran long enough that it has a shape, it has a form, and this is really that shape just repeated again and again, and it's so strange to see it as like it began.
Yeah, and I mean this is kind of like the origin of Pinder's like Echidna-based universe, which he later, sues for and wins, to retain ownership of all of these like extra characters he creates outside of the Sega verse, which like you said, at this point in my life, I was 12, 14-ish. when these originally came out, and I was the exact right age for. I wanted something slightly more serious, but also a little bit light. I still wanted my cartoon animals fighting crime,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, ooh, there's like a little bit of a dark backstory here. This is interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
I see why this appealed to me back then. But also like looking back on this, like this was not like the strongest start for the series that it kind of like blossomed into. Like even like you said, like it kind of goes a little bit downhill as far as like how tone shifty it gets, because it still has,
Inconsistent.
yeah, inconsistent. Like it's all over the place. It has these light bits where they're quipping and telling jokes and eating spare ribs, and then there's this kind of like dark traumatic backstory where characters literally are like murdered, and
Yeah.
corrupt politicians, and uh all kinds of like body modification and mutations and evil scientist, and later there's like a whole story about like drugging people. It's
Yeah.
and kind of like a genocide kind of
Yep.
vibe. It goes wild, y'all. And
Yeah. It's harsh.
yeah, it gets kind of harsh, and it gets so convoluted with all like
So
there's
convoluted.
so many like characters, uh like backstory characters. Like we get all so many characters. Here we are. Like all the different echidnas in Knuckles' line. There's the Brotherhood of the Guardians, and then there's the Dark Legion, which are two like parallel groups split from Knuckles' bloodline, or
Mm-hmm.
his ancestors. The Dark Legion being the bad guys, descended from Dimitri slash Interjack. The good guys being the Guardians, descended from Edmund. And when you get like branching kind of parallel stories of like how they turned evil or how they kind of became dictators, and there's some interesting, awkward, strange politics later on as well, um, in the next series. But from what I was reading, this was really popular enough to not only get a second 3-issue miniseries, The Dark Legion, but then
Mm-hmm.
from there, like you said, it spans into a full 32-issue run of
Yep.
comics, which gets deep in the sauce, as I said. Um,
Yeah.
it seemed like
And what's
mostly it was because fans, called for it. There was like a letter writing campaign
mm-hmm.
that was encouraged by Archie, um, of people writing in, saying they wanted these comics.
Yeah, the outcry for more Knuckles was huge, and it works because Sonic is a great like lead man. He's the one you put on stage, but Knuckles is that dark horse. He's the edgy one. He's the Raphael. He's got the attitude. He's a little
Mm,
antisocial. So he gets his own little spin-off series. He couldn't lead a series. He needs to be a spin-off dude with his own thing. And what makes this even, which continues to make it weirder, is that Dark Legion miniseries becomes the first three issues of the whole Knuckles series. So
mm-hmm.
technically, Knuckles doesn't have an issue one. It's 1, 2, 3 Dark Legion, four Knuckles, and then just four it's Knuckles.
Yeah.
And then goes from there. So it's one of those awkward things where it's like technically there's no real issue one, which throws some collectors right out the window in a fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But for
was
me it's fun trivia.
like I was looking into, it's like, can I buy these again in like any sort of collection? And it looks like they do have like collected Knuckles issues, but it doesn't say, at least on Amazon, like which issues are in which collection, and I'm just like very confusing.
Yeah, it ain't great.
But I read this from Wikipedia regarding like the reception of these comics. It said, Knuckles the Echidna has been commented on by media critics for its bizarre nature. Many of the series' elements have been met with bewilderment, including its tonal inconsistency, complicated dialogue, and extremely blunt political allusions, all while being aimed at children who might not be able to comprehend said aspects properly. And I think that kind of like ties it up pretty tightly about what happened with this series. And I mean, if you're not aware, we mentioned it earlier, but Ken Penders, he was the head writer on the whole entire Knuckles run, I believe, or at least the majority of it. And after he left Archie, he decided he was going to sue the company so he could retain ownership of all of the characters he created for this series, all of the non-Sega characters, which was over 100 characters, I believe.
Yeah.
And he won.
He won because, like, back in the day, nobody cared about this little comic. Nobody thought anybody would raise a fuss. Ken Penders was that guy who raised a fuss about it. And he thought, awesome, everybody will come and see my 100 or so characters. Well, we all know how that worked out.
Yeah. And he still is trying to publish works with those characters, and I'm not sure how well that's going for him. I'll need to check in.
Best not to ask the man. That's how you invite him into your space, and we want to let him walk his piece.
But I also found this kind of interesting review from someone while I was looking at those Amazon listings. Someone mentioned this. This is from an Amazon review by R.J. Robledo on Amazon. He says, Penders' impact was huge. He took the comic from zany slapstick amidst a ruined world to a book of more ponderous tone and subject matter. Instead of just Sonic, Knuckles and company chasing after Robotnik, Ken tried to show frictions between cultures, personal motivations behind a character's actions, and a far-reaching backstory peering deep into the prehistory. Sometimes this came off brilliantly, and sometimes clumsily, and sometimes his attempts at profundity were so obvious as to be comical. But amidst all of these foibles in these early issues of Knuckles the Echidna, there is an undeniable earnestness, a heart to the story, and many excellent ideas. But the work put forth here in the early Sonic comics still shapes the still popular Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Universe comics today. So it's undeniable that I think these had an impact on a lot of readers of comics at the time, particularly interested in Sonic. And I mean, it shaped me as a young teenager, for sure. So, in some ways, I appreciate what Penders was trying to do, but the execution in the end, especially looking back as an adult, is not perfect, I will say.
A for effort, D+ for everything else.
Well, that just about does it for our investigation today. What a wild ride. Join us next time when we'll be digging up the dirt on the original Sonic 2D games through 1996.
Yeah, it's going to be a good year. But if you loved unraveling mysteries with us, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you won't miss a single clue or high-speed chase.
And our adventures are only going to get wilder, and trust me, you'll want to be the first one on the scene.
Especially with me, Jones Grey Fox, multiversal detective extraordinary.
And I'm Spare the Tanuki, your plucky girl Friday.
And this has been the Case Files of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Until next time, keep those tails spinning and those minds sharp.